This meeting of the Essex County Board of Commissioners is hereby called to order. Due to the COVID-19 outbreak and to be in compliance with the governor's executive order, this meeting is being conducted remotely. The public is able to view the meeting via live stream on YouTube. A link for the live stream is posted on the Commissioner website. To all participants in this meeting, please be mindful to put your microphone on mute until speaking. Additionally, please identify yourself by putting your name on the record each time before you speak. The general public will be able to participate by means of communication equipment. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Cooper, absent. Commissioner Gill, absent. Commissioner Graham. Here. Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Luciano, absent. Commissioner Mercado.
Here.
Commissioner Siebold. Here. Commissioner Vice President Pomares.
Here.
Commissioner President Richardson.
Here. We will omit the salute to the flag since we are conducting this meeting remotely. However, for all of those affected and or to lost the COVID-19 virus, let us pause for a moment of silence to honor the 2,439 people in Essex County lost to the virus. Thank you. I have before me certification from the clerk that this meeting is in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Madam Clerk, are there any transcripts to be approved?
Mr. President, there are none.
Madam Clerk, we will now move to topics of discussion. Madam Clerk, are there any topics of discussion?
Mr. President, there are none.
Okay, Madam Clerk. Let's move to public comment. Today's meeting is a combined conference board meeting and we will vote on every item on the agenda. However, since we are meeting remotely, the public had the opportunity to submit questions and comments for consideration and can also call in. At this portion of the meeting, the clerk will have additional instructions for our callers. Madam Clerk.
Constituents were given the opportunity to call in or send emails for public comment prior to the meeting. If you are calling in, you will be acknowledged to speak in the order that your call was received. Emails received for public comment will be read after the calls are completed. At this time, our public information officer will announce the callers so they can state their comment or question and be reminded you have 3 minutes to speak. Please do not have your laptop or any electronic device on while calling in. At this time, we are accepting only calls pertaining to agenda items. Please note, you will have an opportunity to call back later in the meeting at the designated time for public comment session on non-agenda items. Chalo Malumba, Public Information Officer, will begin our public comment session now.
Public Information Officer for the Essex County Board of Commissioners. We do not have any callers at this time.
Also, Mr. President, we do not have any emails regarding agenda items for public comment. Also, Mr. President, I'd like to bring to your attention that I see that Commissioner Gill has joined the meeting.
Excuse me, Madam Clerk, we do have a caller. We have one caller who just called.
Okay.
1 moment. Okay, the caller is Whitney Strube. Mr. Strube, you have 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name for the record. You may begin.
Sure. Hello, Freeholder, or Commissioners, I'm sorry. My name is Whitney Strube. I live in Newark, New Jersey, and I'm with the North Jersey DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America. I'm sure you can predict where this call is headed. I'm calling about the county budget on the agenda, which again extends your collaboration with ICE into the Biden era, where we have seen too many deportations already taking place, and we know that your collaboration with ICE facilitates that. We know that it keeps the detention and deportation apparatus alive. So I call to object to that yet again, but I also call with some questions. Last time I had mentioned this, I mentioned the $38 million on the budget for so-called federal inmates. And I suggested that that was ICE money. I got a little pushback from somebody in the budget office there saying that it was not exclusively ICE money, but I don't see a breakdown. And I'd like to know, for the record, of that projected $38 million, how much of that is coming from ICE versus U.S. Marshals. I think that would be relevant information. I'm sure the vast majority of it is, in fact, from ICE. And secondly, I have another question for the record, which is about Essex County's collaboration with ICE. We know from the Attorney General his own report in November, which showed us that Essex County is collaborating with ICE more than any other county in New Jersey in terms of providing information, making people available to ICE. And so we've known that since about November, and I'd like to know what has been done about that since then, and specifically, what have the commissioners and what has the executive done? Are there plans to take measures to curtail that collaboration, or is that simply now an accepted part of this collaboration with ICE, that Essex County will be New Jersey's flagship county for ICE collaboration? So I would like clarification on that as far as what you have done and or plan to do about this knowledge that we now have. And again, the contract with ICE is immoral, and it does the work of the racist detention machine, and I hope someday you find it within yourselves to stand up to Joe D. and the Corrections Union and end this contract. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Strube. And Madam Clerk, please ensure that this information is relayed to the administration for an appropriate response. Thank you.
Will do, Mr. President.
So let's move ordinances and resolutions on introduction and first reading. Do we have any ordinances or resolution for instructions and first reading, Madam Clerk?
Mr. President, we have one, and that is ordinance establishing New Jersey County option hospital fee pilot program for the County of Essex.
Okay, we'll read it into the record at a later date. Mr. Jackson.
Good evening, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, members of the board. Mr. Del Gaudio is here to explain this one, along with a representative from Myers and Stauffer, Ms. Margaret King. Mr. Del Gaudio.
Good evening, Commissioners. Frank Del Gaudio, Director, Department of Health and Rehabilitation. This ordinance, it's named the County Option Hospital Fee Pilot Program, was an act that was put through the New Jersey legislature back in 2018. It has 7 participating counties in the state of New Jersey. It's the first program of this type being introduced through legislation. So what this program basically does is the county comes up with a plan working with the hospitals in Essex County, which we do have the most hospitals in the state of New Jersey in this county. The program then is designed based on Medicaid discharges. And then what happens is, for all of the hospitals, the calculations are made. They're submitted to the state for approval of the plan, shared the information with all of the hospitals. And then what happens is the county needs to assess a fee in order to submit this program, submit these funds to the federal government. So the way this works, the CMS allows Medicaid programs to use funding mechanisms like this fee program to collect state share dollars that they then match with federal dollars. Okay, so they match these dollars collected by the fee in the same way they fund the entire Medicare program. there's a lot of state fees involved. There's always matching requirements from the state. So what this program then does, it sends more money in order to reimburse us the Medicaid program, and then those monies are then returned to the hospitals through the 5 managed care organizations in the state of New Jersey. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. It's a very complicated formula and how all this was calculated. But we're asking for approval to assess the fee on the hospitals, to collect these funds, and then to transfer to the state of New Jersey, and then to the federal government for distribution back to the hospitals. Now, the purpose of this program is threefold. It brings more money back into the state of New Jersey and disbursement to the hospitals for their Medicaid payments. So the Medicaid payments are pretty much the lowest payments these hospitals receive. So what it does, it tries to bring up the equity for those, the low-income residents that do have Medicaid, and it provides incentive to equal the playing field as far as services go, which is a real important feature of this program. Secondly, the hospitals are then given their funding, what they feel is a fair share for a Medicaid claim. Then money is also allocated to the county in order to administer this program. So, I mean, with this, I know there's a lot of talk all the time that we need to do more in bringing money back into the state and the county, and that's what this bill permits, and the Medicaid program also permits this. So this is the first step in getting this ordinance for your consideration, and we will provide updates moving through this program, which is set to kick off on July 1st of 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Delgadio. Mr. Polavecchio, any questions?
No, I don't have any questions on that, Mr. President.
Mr. McInerney?
Yes, Mr. President and members of the board, I did receive from Mr. DelGuardio literature and schedules with regard to this program. And in addition, it spoke with Mr. DelGuardio in reviewing the schedules. So I'm going to give you my version of this, how this plays out. It basically, and now I'm going to ask a question first. Frank, just to establish the amount of additional Medicaid, according to the schedule here, above and beyond what the hospitals will pay, or I should say the total amount that they'll receive, is listed as $181 million, correct?
Through you, Mr. President, that's correct.
Okay. It's 181,581. So now that is above and beyond the normal Medicaid that the hospitals would have received during the course of a year.
Well, what happens with this, and I'll turn this over to Margaret King, but what this is there's programs like this all over the country, several different fee programs, and they're structured differently throughout the states. And most of these are administered through the states, but this requires money coming from the state in order to initiate these increased payments on the Medicaid side. So I could turn that over to Ms. King to comment.
All right, just so you understand the question, I'm assuming that the $181 million is above and beyond the norm. These are additional Medicaid. These are the incentive for the hospitals to take Medicaid patients, because traditionally those fees are very low and hospitals are reluctant to do so.
Yeah, and through you, Mr. President, that's 100% correct. So what, the table that showed the hospitals that had more Medicaid discharges benefit more from this program. Those that did not have as many Medicaid discharges, the payments are not as high. It's,
Right.
It's a common sense fiscal approach to it on how the whole program is calculated.
Right. So again, the question is the $181 million in addition to the normal flow of Medicaid funds at each one of these hospitals?
Well, I'm going to turn that over for
Okay.
a more detailed explanation by Ms. King.
Hi, good evening. The answer to that question is yes. These are additional dollars over and above the normal Medicaid payment.
Okay. And so secondly, looking at the formula here, the hospital, there's a formula which is 2.5% of the net patient revenue. I guess this is on this is the 2019 model year, so this is on an aggregate amount, which comes to 81,177,000. That money is allocated to each one of the hospitals. For instance, North Beth Israel Medical Center has got to come up with $16,937,000. They have to write a check for that, correct? And give that over to the state or to the federal government? I'm just using them as an example.
Yes, that is correct. They would pay that in quarterly installments. So the very first payment would be 1/4 of that amount. Then they would receive the first Medicaid payment back, which then they could potentially use to fund the remainder of the fee.
Okay, but those funds, which in this case were, again, for North Beth Israel, would be almost $57 million. So that the differential between what they pay and what the estimated amount of additional Medicaid that hospital will receive is $39 million, almost $40 million, correct?
Correct.
All right, so they lay out the 16 on a quarterly basis with the expectation that above and beyond the normal Medicaid, they're going to receive quarterly for the period of 7/1/2020 to 6/30/2021, they are going to receive close to $40 million. Additional money.
Yes,
all right.
that's correct.
So they'll receive 57 million, and the difference between what they paid and what they received is 40 million. Now, in addition to that, can you just explain a little bit of the role that the county plays in this? Because in one of these schedules here, it shows that the county will receive during that same period of time, the state fiscal year, nearly $7.4 million in administrative fees.
Yes, the state set this up so that it's a county program. This is fairly innovative in that most of the Medicaid funding programs like this are state-run, and there are a couple of other local programs, but this one that's county-run is fairly innovative, and which is good. And what that means is the county will be involved by collecting the funds, and the state legislation allows the county to keep 9% of the proceeds of the tax, which for this coming fiscal year will be $7.3 million.
Okay.
The remainder is what is used to make payments to the hospitals.
Right. Okay. So, and this money flows to the county. It's, from what I understand, it goes from the county to the state, to the federal government, to the managed care providers, and then to the hospitals. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is Frank DelGaudio. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Now, on the $7.3 million, does the county have the staff, or has it taken that into consideration? Who will be doing the work in order to, process all these claims?
Well, through you, Mr. President, what happened was our RFP for services from our accounting firm, Myers and Stauffer, include the billing and that administrative work to carry out this initiative.
So they'll be basically in charge. It won't have too much of an impact on county resources.
Well, right. I mean, at this point in time, there's a governmental transfer agreement that we will be bringing before the board, hopefully by the next meeting, that covers all of that, what components and what we're responsible for. And, it's all done via electronic wire transfer.
Okay. And that accounting firm that's going to be doing with that contract was already passed, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and that was the one for 131,000?
Correct.
Okay, all right. So obviously that 1.3 versus 131 is not too bad as far as I'm concerned. So, all right. So, I guess, Mr. President, you can open up to the board, but I think that gives you a rough idea of, the flow of funds, and that these are additional Medicaid monies, above and beyond what they normally would receive. They have to pay quarterly a set amount that was created by formula. And in return, they will get a significant, return on their investment is the best way to look at it. Those additional Medicaid funds, which overall for all the hospitals in Essex County will be over $100 million. The difference between the $181 million that they're going to receive or estimated to receive versus the $81 million they have to pay quarterly. So, Mr. President, that's my spiel on this.
Thank you, Mr. McInerney. Thank you for that explanation.
Mr.
Commissioner,
President,
any
yes,
questions? Commissioner Sebo.
Thank you. Frank, do you have any problems with it at all? Is it all okay?
Can you put it in a glass?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question, Commissioner. I mean, I don't have any problems with what I'm seeing, and the explanations that were given to me by Mr. Del Guardio are clear, and I think there's still issues that the county's working out, themselves to make sure that this is expedited and it's a successful program. But these things do happen in other counties and even in other states. Essex County has not availed itself of it in the past. So it's not like this is a brand new thing. This is definitely something that has happened elsewhere in New Jersey as well as in the country. So, I think the hospitals understand this better than anybody because they're the ones that are being asked to come up with $81 million. And if they didn't think that this was going to be a successful effort, after their due diligence, I would assume that it would have happened. In addition, Mr. Del Guardio indicated that there are weekly meetings on this that are taking place, which I will, now include myself. He was nice enough to include me on those schedules and keep the board abreast. But yeah, I think that, from what I see, it's kind of a win for the county. The only concern that I, would say is any liability that the county has or any shortage of this cash flow. If none of that impacts on the county, according to Mr. Del Guardio, it does not, then, this looks like a decent program. It looks like a very good program.
So other places have been using it, but there hasn't been a problem.
I can't answer that question.
But Mr. Del Guardio is okay with this.
Again, through you, Mr. President Frank Del Guardio, I think putting all the work in and all the checks and balances and, all the effort putting in to protect the county, I see that this is a windfall for our hospitals, especially those, the urban setting, and that's the design of the program. These programs have been very successful in other states, and it's just another example of how the state of New Jersey and Essex County has been losing out on these federal dollars that are available. This is just a mechanism to bring the money back into the county and to our hospital.
Thank you. If that's the case, then I feel comfortable with it. Thank you. And thank you, Frank.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that question, Commissioner Sebo. Any other comments? I think Commissioner Luciano has joined us.
Yeah, Mr. President, I have a question for Frank.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner McCollum.
What other counties are implementing this type of program?
Yeah, to you, Mr. President, and Frank DelGaudio, this fee pilot program was granted to only 7 counties in New Jersey, and they're deemed the urban county. So it's Atlantic, Camden, Essex, Hudson, Mercer, Middlesex, and Passaic.
Got it. Thank you.
Commissioners, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk. Oh, I have I apologize, jumped ahead. I have a motion from Commissioner Graham and a second from Commissioner Luciano to introduce ordinance number 1. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Cooper, absent. Commissioner Gill,
Yes.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Johnson, you're on mute. Commissioner Johnson,
Yes. I'm not on mute.
Commissioner Luciano,
Yes.
Commissioner Mercado,
Yes.
Commissioner Siebel,
Yes.
Commissioner Vice President Pomares,
Yes.
Commissioner President Richardson.
Yes.
So moved.
Madam Clerk, do we have any ordinances or resolutions for listing purposes only?
Mr. President, we have 2. Resolution number R2 2021-00159 and resolution number R-2021-00160.
Madam Clerk, can you list resolutions number R 2021-00159 and 00160 for public hearing at our March 24th meeting?
Will do, Mr. President.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have any ordinances or resolutions on second reading and public hearing this afternoon?
Mr. President, we have none.
Okay, Madam Clerk, let's move to resolution number 1, which is from the Division of Community Health Services, and read it into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Director Eileen Fishman is here to address this item.
Good evening, Commissioners. Good evening, President, Commissioners, President Richardson. I'm Eileen Fishman, Director of Community Health, Division of Community Health Services. This is a grant that we have yearly that the Essex County Municipal Alliance, these are for contracts, and it's for $204,000, $204,285, excuse me. And it's for each alliance gets a prescribed amount of dollars based on a formula that's given to us by the state. And for that, they use these funds for the purposes of prevention and education for vaping, marijuana, alcohol, and substance use disorder. Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Fishman. Mr. Paulovecchio.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Fishman, I'm looking at the data sheet that was provided with all the county alliances. Does this cover all municipalities except for Newark?
For Newark and Essex Fells.
And Essex Fells.
Newark, and each one chooses not to participate in the program. It covers 20 municipalities, one of which is a consortium of 2, that's Caldwell, West Caldwell.
Okay, and the other, and the 2 that you mentioned, just affirmatively opt out of it?
Yes, We have been attempting to work with we have actually not attempting. We have worked closely with Newark over time. I have been in the division for 10 years now, and it was around the time I came that Newark decided not to avail themselves of the program. And each year thereafter, we attempt to discuss with Newark. We've been now through, I think it's 2 administrations at least. We were quite close about 2 years ago. There was a woman in the health department who was a health educator who was going to be the coordinator, and she was very willing and interested in working on the program. We worked very well with her. We trained her. We sent her to training, and she moved on to a different position in her life and a new job. And when she left, everything fell apart. And even though our coordinator, Elizabeth Marks, has had constant conversation with them in Newark about it, they choose not to participate. Essex Fells chooses also not to participate. They do not want to comply with the programming that's required in order to have the funding. And in their case, since they're a small town, the percentage of funding is quite low. So for them, they want to do the programs they choose to do when they choose to do them.
Thanks, Eileen. I appreciate that.
No worries.
I have a question.
Hold on. Mr. McInerney.
I don't have any questions, Mr. President.
Okay, commissioners. Commissioner Siebel.
I have a question. Eileen, how is it determined how much a municipality receives? I have the list in front of me, how much each gets.
It's done via formula that's given to us by the state.
And that's how you determine?
We don't determine it. It's based on the funding they give us, and which has been drastically cut because of COVID. And the monies for us in this particular case, come from the DETR funds, and those have been reduced drastically. And so they're not getting the funding. Jakarta is not getting the funding, the monies from DETR to disseminate to the counties for this program at the same level as it was in the past. And go ahead.
So the state is determining how much each town gets?
Yes, absolutely. We do not have the ability to do that. They give us a formula, and based on that formula, that's how we end up with the money.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioners, any other questions? Yeah, it's very disappointing that Newark chose not to participate. I remember having this conversation, and I thought they had opted back in. I thought you guys had actually done it. But it's disappointing hearing now that it kind of fell apart. However, we got to keep moving on. Thank you for that. Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Graham and a second from Commissioner Johnson. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Siebel,
Yes.
Commissioner Mercado,
Yes.
Commissioner Luciano,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes.
Commissioner Gill,
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper, absent. Commissioner Vice President Pomares,
Yes.
Commissioner President Richardson.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Madam
Have a good
Clerk.
night.
You are welcome. Okay, Madam Clerk, we will now move to resolution number 2, and it is from the Division of Housing and Community Development. Please read it into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. President, Mr. Lombardi will address this item.
Good evening, Craig Lombardi, Division of Housing and Community Development. As the resolution reads, we are requesting that the board amend the Emergency Solutions Grant Agreement with the Salvation Army of Montclair in order to fund emergency shelter operation activities in the amount of $20,000. We are requesting this contract amendment because we originally intended to fund shelter operations, but mistakenly published the award as a homeless prevention activity. In order to correct this error, we have reissued a public notice, and we require approval from the Board of Commissioners to authorize the correction. Do you have any questions?
Mr. Polavecchio, any questions?
No, I don't have any questions.
Mr. McInerney?
All right, no questions.
Commissioners, any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. I have a motion from Commissioner Luciano and a second from Commissioner Mercado. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Cooper absent. Commissioner Gill?
Yes.
Commissioner Graham?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
You're muted, Commissioner.
Commissioner Johnson?
I think he just gave a thumbs up.
Okay, yes, from Commissioner Johnson via thumbs up. Commissioner Luciano?
Yes.
Commissioner Mercado?
Yes.
Commissioner Siebel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vice President Pomares?
Yes.
Commissioner President Richardson?
Yes,
So moved.
Thank you.
Madam. Okay, Madam Clerk, let's move to resolution number 3, which is from the Board of Elections. Please read it into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. President, I'll be handling this one. This is from the Board of Elections. It's a contract with Alliance Graphics, Inc. to provide printing services for the board, election materials for 2021 and 2022. And the amount of the contract is not to exceed $97,190. This was a publicly advertised, fair, and open RFP. 2 responses were received. This company will provide primary, general, and school board election books, and the funding will be from operating funds. They do ballots, they do instructional materials for citizens to provide for written material. And again, there were 2 responses, and Reliance was the most highly graded respondent.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Mr. Polavecchio, any questions?
No, no questions.
Mr. McInerney?
No questions.
Commissioners, questions or comments? Hearing none, I have a motion from Commissioner Vice President Pomares and a second from Commissioner Siebel. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Siebel?
Yes.
Commissioner Mercado?
Yes.
Commissioner Luciano?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Graham?
Yes.
Commissioner Gill?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper absent. Commissioner Vice President Pomares?
Yes.
Commissioner President Richardson?
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, Madam Clerk, let's move to resolutions 4 through 6, which are from the Division of Youth Services, and read them into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. President, Mr. Martinez will address items 4 through 6.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Jason Martinez. I'm the Administrator for the Youth Services Commission. Today we are requesting approval for the telephone notification from the Superior Court of New Jersey Family Division, and for the amount of $16,922. A brief description in regards to this position. The telephone notification makes telephone calls daily to remind juveniles and parents and guardians of their next court date prior to the hearing. Also, the telephone notification it reduces the need for the bench warrant to be issued due to the juvenile's failure to appear in court and to be placed in detention. That's one of the main roles for this part-time position. Any questions in regards
Thank you, Mr.
to
Martinez.
the telephone
Mr.
notification?
Any questions?
A quick question on this. I see we are contracting with the Superior Court on this. Did we used to use an outside vendor to provide this service? In fact, I remember a young lady might have started doing this, maybe a college project.
That is for the telephone notification. Yes, there was a young lady and she had got a promotion. Well, not a promotion. She ended up getting a job within the courts. So she had moved on. We have a different young lady who is working there now for a part-time job.
And this contract is directly with the Superior Court, right?
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parlavacchio. Mr. McInerney.
No questions.
Commissioners, questions or comments? Hearing none, I have a motion from Commissioner Luciano and a second from Commissioner Gill to take resolutions 4 through 6 as one. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. President, before you jump into that, I don't think he's explained 5 and 6 yet. That was just number 4.
You're 100% right, and go slow down.
Mr. President, I think it's actually 4 and 6 need to be done.
Yeah, I apologize for that. That was just one of the the telephone notification. The next one is for sorry about that. But so the Division of the Youth Services is requesting the approval in 20 contracts to provide services in dispositional options, diversion, delinquency prevention, re-entry, and also detention alternatives. I have today with me is from Aspira, Carlos Valentin. He's the executive director for Aspira, and one of the programs that we're providing funding is for the evening reporting center. And if he's on, he'll be able to speak about this.
Excuse me, Mr. President, for clarity. So the resolution that was discussed was Resolution 5, and are we now, through you, Mr. President, discussing Resolution 4?
I believe that's correct. Is that correct, Mr. Martinez?
That's number 6.
That's number 6. I skipped over 5. Apologize.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, Mr. President, if we may just pause for a second. So I think what happened is we started at number 5.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
And I should have did number, yes.
Okay, so we have not done 4 or 6. So can we just clarify for the record, we did 5, we are now doing 6, is that correct?
That's
Yes.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Vice President.
So if Carlos Valentin is on, he'll be able to speak a little about the detention alternate program that he has.
Good evening, Commissioners. I don't know if I'm muted or not.
We can hear you.
Hello, okay. Good evening, esteemed Commissioners and Essex County family. My name is Carlos Valentin from Aspira of New Jersey. With regards to the evening reporting center, pretty much it's an option where we've run the program for a number of years. I'm sure some of you have been familiar with it. Obviously, during COVID, if you don't mind indulging me, I'd like to tell you some of the changes we made to address the COVID situation with this. But we've had the students, we pick them up no more than 4 per van. We observe all social distancing protocols. Their temperatures are taken actually before they board the van to avoid, obviously spreading the virus. When they're in the facilities, they're socially distanced. We also stagger their schedules. We have no more than 5 to 8 daily, and we alternate the schedules every other day. And we've been doing this for the last couple of months. Hopefully, as things get better, we'll be able to return to normal with it. But we've been able to still provide services to all of them. When they're not in the facility physically, we're providing services remotely. Our counselors are calling them. They're engaging in different activities over the phone. They're spending time doing some counseling with them. And they're pretty much in contact with them for most of the time that they would be in the program as well.
Thank you, Mr. Valentine.
Thank you.
Ms. Palavecchia,
I don't have any questions, Mr. President.
Mr. McInerney,
No questions.
commissioners, questions or comments? For resolution number 6. Hearing none, let's go back to number 4.
Yes, I apologize for that, commissioners. So yes, last one is the Division of Youth Services is requesting approval for $100,238 to provide funding for the Superior Court Family Division, the Substance Abuse Evaluator. Tonight I have Bob Viscotti, who holds that position, and he'll be able to elaborate a little more in regards to the Substance Abuse Evaluator.
Good afternoon, all. I just want to let you know that I'm honored to be here tonight, and I want to thank Jason for inviting me to speak. I almost thought I was going to get away with not having to speak for a second there. So again, my name is Rob Friscotti, and I'm a task evaluator for the Essex Superior Court Family Division. We conduct substance abuse evaluations and make recommendations for the judges. There are currently 7 evaluators working in Essex. We have more evaluators in Essex than any vicinage in the state due to the large nature of Essex County. There are 3 in criminal, 2 in probation, and 2 in the family division, one of them being me. Primarily we deal with juveniles in the family division. And so how we conduct the tools we use to conduct our evaluation is the ASI, Addiction Severity Index. We use the DSM-5, and we go by ASAM criteria. So the DSM-5 is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual. And if a juvenile meets criteria for a substance use disorder, then we refer to the ASAM, the American Society of Addictive Medicine, and we use that to determine a level of care. So what I'm talking about is if a young man or young woman meets criteria for a substance use disorder, they come in 3 categories, like say cannabis, so they might meet criteria for a cannabis use disorder. So it'll be either mild, moderate, and severe, and determining on the severity is what we refer them to, what level of care, which is a program. So, and I mentioned that I'm a task evaluator, and TASK stands for Treatment Assessment Services for the Courts. So we basically provide a service for the judges, like alternative sentencing, and if it's determined that they have a substance use issue, we can refer them to a program. We work closely with the CMOs. Everything we do is court ordered. So before we can evaluate a young man or young woman, They have to be, we have to get a court order from the judge. Where we get our referrals we get them from several different docket types, but primarily FJ is juvenile, the juvenile, we get the juveniles. Then CIC is children in court. And so we also get referrals from probation and JISP. And then every now and then the judges call us in. We do what is known as ISC. It's intake service conference, and basically it's a counseling session with the kid where the judge will call us. They'll get referred to us, and we do a brief session. Typically now over the phone. Usually it would be in person, but due to the challenges that we've all been facing over the last year, we've been working over the phone and working pretty efficiently, I might add. So that's basically the task in a nutshell. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Piscato. Again, Mr. Polavecchio, any questions?
No, sir, no questions.
Mr. McInerney,
No questions.
commissioners, any questions or comments?
Mr. President, I have one.
Mr. Vice President,
Thank you. I know the representative that just spoke to us mentioned there are two of his positions. Is this funding for both, or is this just for one?
This is for one, for the evaluation.
Okay, thank you.
okay, any other questions or comments, Commissioner? Hearing none, I have a motion from Commissioner Luciano and a second from Commissioner Gill to take resolutions 4 through 6 as one. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Cooper, absent. Commissioner Gill,
Yes.
absent. Okay. Commissioner Gill is yes. Commissioner Graham,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Luciano,
Yes.
Commissioner Mercado,
Yes for number 4 and 5, and no vote, not voting for number 6.
okay. Commissioner Siebel,
Yes.
Commissioner Vice President Pomares,
Yes.
Commissioner President Richardson.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioners. Be safe.
Thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, let's move to resolutions 7 through 9, which are from the Department of Parks, and read them into the record at a later time. Let's read them in the order that they appear. Mr. Jackson.
Yes, I would apologize for that, Mr. President. Mr. Zates will handle items 7 through 9 in that order.
Joshua Zates, Essex County Parks. Good evening, Board of Commissioners. Starting with number 7, this is a contract award to First Direct Products for the purchase and delivery of Swan paddle boats in an amount not to exceed $169,376.10. Specifically, this is a contract where we can purchase up to 30 Swan boats. The cost for each Swan boat is $5,645.81. As it stands now, we anticipate purchasing 16 to 20 boats, but we opted to go with 30 boats just in case some issues with some of the current boats arise. Number 8 is a bit of housekeeping. It's a resolution with the Department of Environmental Protection for the Green Acres program. Back in March of last year, the board approved an enabling resolution for Green Acres in the amount of $1.5 million for the Hendricks Field Improvement Project. Since that time, Green Acres has upped their grant amount to $2 million. So this is a resolution adjusting that amount to now read $2 million. And then resolution number 9 is a change order with Kevin Downs Tree Service to provide removal, trimming, and stump grinding services. This is an extra $100,000. The original contract was $500,000. This is an additional 20%, bringing the total contract up to $600,000. Currently, we are going through all the trees throughout the park system and addressing safety concerns throughout. And this contract ends in October of this year, and we're optimistic that the extra $100,000 will see the contract through its expiration date. Happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
Thank you, Mr. Zates. Mr. Parlavecchio.
Yes, Mr. Zates, on number 9, was there any specific event or something that has necessitated the 20% increase on this? Like, for instance, were more trees or limbs down because of weather or snow or something that wasn't anticipated when the contract was originally awarded?
Joshua Zates, through you, Mr. President. That is partially true. We did have the tropical storm, I believe it was last summer, that just did a number on our park system, be it branches, limbs, down trees. That's a big part of it. And then the other thing is, we're just addressing safety concerns. As you know, we have the oldest park system in the entire U.S. It turned 125 last year. So these are, as you can imagine, older trees, which we're in the process of dealing with.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you
Mr.
for your
President, I have a
question. Mr. McInerney.
No questions.
Commissioner Stevo.
Josh, are the swan boats for the reservoir only for the reservoir?
Through you, Mr. President, Commissioner Sebo, that is correct. It's only for the reservoir. We only provide paddle boats in the reservoir. If the board sees additional boats throughout the park system, those are provided by private vendors who have a contract with the county.
Are there paddle boats at other parks, at other lakes?
Verona Park, the boathouse
That's what
over there, is a concession. Those are owned and operated by the vendor over there.
Okay, I understand. That was really my question. Thanks.
That's a good question, Commissioner. Let me ask you a question, Mr. Zates. So where else in the park systems are swan boats or paddle boats or any kind of boats allowed? I know it used to be, and you had boats in Branchbrook Park, I believe Weequahic Park as well at some point.
As it stands now, we only have 2 sites, the reservoir, which again is county operated, and then Verona Park, which is a concessionaire. Occasionally, on rare occasions, such as like the Cherry Blossom Festival, we might have some boats over in Branchbrook, but that's really more of a special occasion.
So if a private vendor wanted to own, like you said, own and operate, have a boathouse in Branchbrook Park again, or in Weequahic Park, what is the process for doing so?
We would certainly welcome that. They're free to contact the Parks Department directly, and we could listen to what they envision and certainly go from there.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Mr. President?
You're welcome.
Commissioner Palmares. Vice President Palmares.
That's all right. Is this fleet of swan boats a replacement or simply just to expand the fleet because of demand?
It's a little bit of both. It is a replacement. The lifespan of a swan boat is 3 to 5 years, just depending on usage. The reservoir has like a Belgium block bottom. So lots of times when the boats are being docked or patrons are using them, they tend to hit that Belgium block, especially along the sides. So the boats get scraped up and dinged. So this is partially a replacement, partially some new boats. What we typically do is if the boat is beyond repair, and we do repair them in-house, but if it gets to the point where we can't repair them anymore, we do scrap the boats and take whatever parts are usable to then use on future boats for replacements.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that question. Commissioners, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I have a motion from Commissioner Sebo and a second from Commissioner Graham to take resolutions 7 through 9 as one. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Sebo,
Yes.
Commissioner Mercado,
Yes.
Commissioner Luciano,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes.
Commissioner Gill,
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper, absent. Commissioner Vice President Pomares,
Yes.
Commissioner President Richardson.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, Madam Clerk, let's move to resolutions 10 through 13, which are from the Department of Public Works. Please read them into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Antonio is going to address items 10 through 13.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is David Antonio, Department of Public Works. Item number 10 is a contract award to Hoffman Equipment to provide the rental of 3 front-end loaders with 3 cubic yard buckets. This is the first 1-year contract option available under an existing contract. These front-end loaders are utilized during winter operations at our 3 salt domes located in Verona, Belleville, and Milburn. Item number 11 is professional service agreement to provide cultural resources for various county bridge projects. The award would be to Richard Grubb Associates in an amount not to exceed $38,285. The county is planning on replacing various culverts throughout the county. The replacement of those culverts will likely trigger the requirement to apply for a freshwater wetlands permit from the Department of Environmental Protection, thereby requiring compliance with rules that require us to consider effects of the project on historic and archaeological resources for bridges or structures that could be registered in the National Register of Historic Places. Item number 12 is a contract award to DCO Energy, the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, to provide operations and maintenance of building systems at the Juvenile Detention Center from March 30th of 2021 through March 30th of 2024, an amount not to exceed $3,139,019.81. Item number 13 is a contract award to DCO Energy, the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, to provide operations and maintenance of building systems at the hospital center. The period of March 30th, 2021 to March 30th, 2024, for an amount not to exceed $7,073,108.50. Tonight, we have Mr. David Delvecchio from DCO, who would like to address the board, introduce himself, the company, and perhaps answer questions. David?
Thank you very much. And Mr. President and the Board of Commissioners, thank you for having us here tonight. And also with me on the phone, I believe, is Fred Eckert, who is the Executive Vice President of Operations for DCO Energy, Ron Halley, who works with Fred, and John Wall of DCO Energy. I believe they're all on the phone. And the good news is that at the hospital center, we've actually been there since it opened, and we've been at the JDC for quite some time also. And the good news is that the contract for the next 3 years is actually less than the contract for the 3 years before. So we're very familiar with everything there, obviously, since we've been there for, like I said, the hospital since it opened, and JDC for probably a similar amount of time. And, we love being part of putting Essex County first. And any questions that the commissioners or the consultants or the professionals have, please go ahead.
So, excuse me, before we do that, you brought some other folks with you. Do they have different perspectives? Are they or they have different expertise than what you just gave us?
Well, Fred and Ron, for instance, if you had specific questions about the operations, they know the operations in and out and would be able to answer any questions pertaining to that.
So let's do this. Let's get Fred or Ron to put their name on the record and tell us about the operation. How about we do it that way?
Fred and Ron?
Okay, good evening. This is Fred Eckert, DCO Energy Executive Vice President, Operations. I just want to tell you a little bit about the contract, and I want to thank you for your confidence in our company, our group, and your trust in us. As David said, we have been at the JD Center for 13 years, and the hospital since it started up in 2006. The Juvenile Detention Center has 5 employees. The classifications is 1 lead operator / O&M manager, 4 operator maintainers. It's a 24/7 operation. These employees are all members of Local 68. The employees have high pressure black seals and refrigerant licenses as required by the state boiler and pressure vessel codes. The scope of these contracts, and I'll just go over the JDC first, and then we'll hit the hospital center in a minute. The scope of the contract is to provide labor, materials, consumables, all your contractor labor, such that we can maintain and operate the systems in accordance with all the OEM, which is the original equipment manufacturer's requirements. We also are operating equipment like the boilers, the chillers, the HVAC systems, emergency generators, fire systems, all the plumbing, the locks, and all the building services. The roofing is all included in this contract. We also comply with all the bonding and the insurance requirements as specified. So this does all your preventative maintenance, your corrective maintenance, and also provides all tooling. In the contract term is 3 years, so that's why you're seeing the number. Usually we're somewhere around $1 million a year, so that's why you're seeing at the JD Center the award around $3.1 million, and there's an optional 2-year extension if the county chooses to select us again. In addition to that, there is a reimbursable discretionary amount that's in these bids, and that's completely approved by the county, and that's for the JD Center, that is $100,000. So the psychiatric hospital, we have 11 employees, 1 lead operator manager, O&M manager. We have 4 operators, 1 per shift. We have 4 maintainers, 1 per shift. So it's a 24/7 operation similar to JD Center. We also provide a service technician and an HVAC technician. Again, all these operators and maintainers are members of Local 68. They all possess the high pressure boiler and refrigerant license as required by the state boiler and pressure vessel code. The equipment is relatively the same. The big issue with the hospital specification is we are JACO certified, and we comply to all the Joint Commission requirements for maintenance. This contract has a reimbursable county discretionary amount of $300,000 per year, completely approved by the county. And again, we have been there since startup for 14 years. And the scope is the same: boilers, chillers, all the labor, all the materials, all the consumables, all the contract services, the bonding and insurance per spec, and the preventative maintenance and tooling is all in there. And any questions?
Hold on. Is Ron gonna say something? Or did you cover everything?
I think I covered everything.
Okay, all right. Mr. Paulavecchio, you have any questions?
Mr. President, not a question, but a just comment on items 12 and 13. Both 12, which deals with the Juvenile Detention Center, and Resolution 13, dealing with the hospital center, both of those contracts were put out by public bid. Both were awarded to who was determined to be the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, and both of them are for multiple-year contracts, as you've heard, both 3-year contracts at the amount, the not-to-exceed amount stated in the resolution, with the 2-year options at the end of those 3-year terms. So they are the lowest responsive and responsible bidders in both instances.
Thank you, Mr. Paulavecchio. Mr. McInerney, any questions?
Yes, I do. Are the discretionary amounts that you made mention to, especially the one for the hospital center, 300,000, that's for the period of the contract, correct? Here, correct?
This is Fred Eckert, and that is for every year. There's a $300,000 allowance for reimbursables every year. I need to stress, DCO Energy doesn't control that money. That's controlled by the county director and also Public Works Department. What they will do is direct us on what needs are, and then we go out and get bids, and then we basically submit those bids for the amount of money. Once that fund is used up, we don't spend anymore, or they don't spend anymore. If there's anything left, I believe you'd have to talk to them. I believe they return it.
Was that the same amount as the last contract?
The last several contracts, the hospital was 200,000, and the juvenile detention center, so it was 200,000 for 300,000. The juvenile detention center was 150,000, and they dropped that to 100,000.
I know the one also for corrections has one as well. I thought that was at 150 at one point in time. Yeah.
We operate the Essex County Correctional Facility, and that is 800,000 over I believe it's a two-year period.
Okay, all right. And as you said before, these amounts are discretionary to the county. My recollection is that they're mostly used for parts or certain repairs or equipment that is not included in the overall contract.
That's correct. There's a cap on the equipment on our spending limit of $5,000. So it's used for items over $5,000, and it's also used for capital projects that they choose to spend it on.
What's the overall condition of the systems themselves? I know they've been in place for a period of time, but what's the overall condition? Do you see any needs for any major capital improvements to these areas?
So let's speak to the JD Center. Since we've been there over 14 years, over the 14 years, Frank Piscucci and the Public Works group has replaced a good amount of the air handling units. We've done some major work on the chillers and the boilers. So the mechanical systems are all in operating shape and all in acceptable condition. At the psychiatric hospital, we have what we call an N+1 environment, which means out of the 3 chillers, we'll only run 2 of them at any one given time. Sometimes we're only running 1. Same with the emergency generators and the boilers and all the air handling units. So that equipment is still in very good condition. And we have, in occasion, upgraded software and upgraded some of the major hot water heaters and tanks. So your building service equipment in both them buildings is slowly getting upgraded, but overall, they're in very good condition at this point.
Mm-hmm. And as far as staffing, everybody who's in these facilities has their requisite, licenses and certifications.
Correct. And if you go and you ever walk into the boiler rooms and the control rooms, you'll see that all the personnel have their New Jersey boiler licenses posted on the wall, whether they're red seal, gold seal, or black seal, and their refrigerant license, which is either blue or red. So all those personnel are licensed. Like I said, they're all local 68. 90% of the individuals have gone through the complete apprenticeship program. There are some that got grandfathered in early on, but there are more experienced guys.
All right. Was there something in the original contracts, or I don't know if it's still about a fireman?
We take care of the fire systems, and we have an we have a licensed electrician on staff in the event that we have to replace a smoke head or some electrical component. However, I will tell you that 9 times out of 10, the fire contractor is within earshot of one of the facilities because we're operating both the Votex pool, the JD Center, the hospital, and the correctional facility. And with all that work going on, we have our fire contractor there a good amount of the time doing corrective, and he has a significant preventive maintenance program.
Is that above
But
and
that is
beyond?
the fire issue. We do have to have a licensed person if we change the smoke head, stuff like that.
Right, because I remember, I'm talking about a while ago that there was, I think they were not licensed. At this point in time, you're using an outside contractor. for that.
We have a licensed electrician on staff, and we're using an outside contractor in addition to that.
Okay.
So we have the capability in event of a severe emergency. However, if it's just a normal day and the contractor is available and the electrician is signed elsewhere or assigned on a previous job, we'll call the contractor in.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you for that information. Commissioners, any questions or comments?
Mr. President, I have
Commissioner Sebo.
David Delvecchio, DCO Energy, and the people with DCO who spoke tonight have been working for the county for many, many years, and they've done a wonderful job. I can't remember our ever having a problem with them. So I'm very happy to support them and to have them continue doing the great work they do. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sebo.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I have a motion from Commissioner Johnson and a second from Commissioner Luciano to take resolutions 10 through 13 as one. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Cooper, absent. Commissioner Gill,
Yes.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Luciano,
Yes.
Commissioner Mercado,
Yes.
Commissioner Sebo,
Yes.
Commissioner Vice President Pomares,
Yes.
Commissioner President Richardson.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, Madam Clerk, let's move to resolution number 14, which is from the Office of Public Information. We will read it into the record at a later time. Please be reminded, we will conduct a public comment session for non-agenda items at the end of the meeting for any other call-ins. Clerk, can you give them the call-in information?
If you're calling in, the number is 855-756-7520. That is 855-756-7520. Use the password 72190#. Again, the password is 72190#. You will be acknowledged to speak in the order that your call was received. Emails received for public comment will be read after the calls are completed. And that is the information, Mr. President, for public comment later on the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Jackson, please explain the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. Deputy Administrator Coltre is going to handle items 14 through 19. Jay, we
Mr.
cannot hear
Coltre,
you.
we can't hear you. Still cannot hear you. Mr. Jackson, you may have to take over.
Sounds like it, Mr. President. Okay. We'll go through these. First one is a contract with Crown Trophy, lowest responsible bidder, to provide for trophies and plaques and other commemorative items that we do throughout the year. The county is a 12-month contract in an amount not to exceed $50,000. Most of these are a 10% discount on list price. It includes a $25,000 allowance for engraving and printing. This is a county-wide contract. Number 15 is with the Department of Administration and Finance, Office of Purchasing. This is a contract with West Publishing Corporation to provide for Westlaw research data, related library materials for Essex County, all Essex County agencies, primarily used by the County Counsel's Office, Prosecutor's Office, and the Correctional Facility. Law research data and related library materials. This is a non-open and non-fair and open contract, bid exempt, in an amount not to exceed $750,000, a 2-year contract. Item 16 is a contract to award the 4 lowest and responsive bidders on an item by item basis to furnish household and janitorial supplies. These are 24-month agreements. Amount not to exceed $2 million. We received 7 bids. 4 vendors were chosen: United States Sales, USA Corporation, TSP Maintenance Supply, Imperial Bag and Paper, Interborough Packaging. And this again is a county-wide contract. Item 17 is with the Office of the Sheriff.
Jackson,
Yes.
Let's do those 3 for now, and then we'll come back to the rest. Okay. Mr. Polavecchio, any questions on 14, 15, and 16?
No questions, Mr. President.
Mr. McInerney?
No questions.
Commissioners, any questions on resolutions 14, 15, or 16? Hearing none. I have a motion from Commissioner Mercado and a second from Commissioner Vice President Amaro. Roll call, madam.
Commissioner Siebel,
Yes.
Commissioner Mercado,
Yes.
Commissioner Luciano,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes.
Commissioner Gill,
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper absent, Commissioner Vice President Pomares,
Yes.
Commissioner President Richardson.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's move to resolution 17, 18, and 19. Correct, Mr. Jackson?
That is correct, Mr. President. Yes.
Hey.
Contract number 17 is with the Office of the Sheriff. It's a contract award to Frank's Truck Center, the sole responsive and responsive bidder. This is going to provide 1 new 2021 Chevy Tahoe Sport utility vehicle, an amount not to exceed $62,317. Item 18, again, Office of the Sheriff, similar vehicle, 2021 Chevrolet Tahoe Sport utility vehicle, and an amount not to exceed $58,669. Item 19, that's with the Office of the Prosecutor, similar vehicle, the 2021 Chevrolet Tahoe Sport utility vehicle for the Prosecutor's Office, in the amount of $117,338.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson.
All of those are with Frank's Truck Center from Lyndhurst, New Jersey.
Thank you. Commissioner Polavecchio. Mr. Polavecchio.
No questions on these, Mr. President.
Mr. McInerney.
No questions.
Commissioners, any questions? 17, 18, and 19? Hearing none, I have a motion from Commissioner Graham and a second from Commissioner Sebo. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Cooper, absent. Commissioner Gill,
Yes.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Luciano,
Yes.
Commissioner Mercado,
Yes.
Commissioner Sebo,
Yes.
Commissioner Vice President Pomares,
Yes.
Commissioner President Richardson.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, Madam Clerk, let's move to resolutions 20 through 31, which are governing body certification compliance with EEOC guidance in memoriams and accommodations. Please read them into the record at a later time. Mr. Paulovich.
Yes, Mr. President, I could speak to number 20. Number 20 is a resolution, as you stated, for governing body certification of compliance with the United States Equal Employment Opportunity Commission's enforcement guidance on the consideration of arrest and conviction records in employment decisions. This is part of the budget adoption process, and the board members are asked for their familiarity with certain enforcement guidance under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. And I've provided, as I have in past years, a memo to the board and provided a summary of both the enforcement guidance and the relevant county hiring processes pertaining to an individual's criminal history. So you can become more familiar with those subjects. And of course, I've consulted with county counsel, and based on that, it's of my opinion that the county's practices comply with this EEOC guidance. So you should feel comfortable or confident that you can certify as required by the budget process before the county submits its budget.
Thank you, Mr. Paulovecchio. Mr. McInerney. You're muted, sir.
No questions.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Hearing none. I have a motion from Commissioner Mercado and a second from Commissioner Vice President Pomares to take resolutions number 20 through 31 as one. Roll call, Madam Clerk. You're muted.
Commissioner Sebo,
Yes.
Commissioner Mercado,
Yes.
Commissioner Luciano,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes.
Commissioner Gill,
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper, absent. Commissioner Vice President Pomares,
Yes.
Commissioner President Richardson.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have any added starters?
Mr. President, we have none.
All right. Commissioners, do we have any reports of board committees? Any legislative reports? Any written communication? Any unfinished business? Any new business? Okay, there are none. Okay, Madam Clerk, let's move to the public comment session on non-agenda items. However, since we are meeting remote, the public had the opportunity to submit questions and comments for consideration, and they also have the opportunity to call in. Madam Clerk.
Mr. President, as is our practice and our policy, all questions are answered in writing. So at this time, our public information officer will announce the caller so they can state their comment or their question. And be reminded, you will have 3 minutes to speak. Please do not have your laptop or any electronic device on while calling in. At this time, we're accepting only calls pertaining to non-agenda items. Chalo Malumba, our public information officer, will begin our session now.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Chalo Malumba, Public Information Officer for the Essex County Board of Commissioners. We do not have any callers waiting to speak at this time.
Thank you. Mr. President, we do have several comments that we received by email. The first one was submitted by Karen T. No last name or address given. Hello, I'm an employee of Essex County Welfare, and this is in regards to the decision that Essex County Welfare employees should be returning to 5-day work schedule at the office on March 1st. This decision should be reconsidered, or at the very least, an extended period of time should be issued, and here's why. The County of Essex is not prepared to receive over 600 employees at their designated workstation. At this time, there's no proper distancing set for each employee and their cubicles, creating a bigger concern regarding COVID-19. Elevators and entrances need to be modified in a way there's no morning traffic when getting in and out of the building. This has to be addressed by the county. Additionally, a lot of us are parents of minors attending elementary school, and at this time, school districts remain closed with no clear path of when or how children will return to school. When putting parents in the position of leaving children with others to care for while attending virtual classes bring a lot of other issues and financial hardships that we're not prepared to take on. Thirdly, some of us have received laptops and all are well capable to do work from home and maintain productivity as if working in the office. With new technology in our hands readily available to use and a worldwide pandemic still active, the mandatory physical attendance to an unfit building should be a thing of the past. Please reconsider this decision or allow us all to have a clear extended time to prepare for 5 days a week at the Essex County building. Sincerely, Karen T. The next comment was submitted by Tina Spychek. No address given. Hello, my name is Tina Spychek, and I'm reaching out because the meetings of the Essex County Commissioners consistently fail to meet the basic standards of democracy and accessibility. For the past several years, the county ICE contract has been the overwhelming top of issue of concern at these meetings. We've seen numerous attempts to avoid the public from ending the opening public comment session to forcing all comments to be read by the clerk for the first several months of the pandemic. Now at recent meetings, speakers have been regularly dropped from the queue by your system, and at your recent meeting, at least one, possibly more people were on the line waiting to speak and never called. This is completely unacceptable as well as illegal, and yet another effort to avoid the growing movement against the ICE contract. I'm mailing you to demand that the public be allowed to speak on Zoom or call through a simple raising of hands, which is how Hudson County Commissioners meetings operate. I also want it noted that I see the inaccessibility of these meetings as a symptom of a broader failure of democracy in Essex County. The public does not want the county to contract with ICE and has made that clear for years. Instead of listening, you've made it harder for us to be heard, but we are not going anywhere. So please make these meetings more accessible and also call on Joe DiVincenzo and the commissioners to stop collaborating with ICE. Thank you. The next comment was submitted by Matt Dragon of West Orange, New Jersey. I appreciate the work that's being done by the administration and many county employees around vaccine distribution. From everything I've heard, we're one of the better counties in the state that deserves acknowledgement up front. But one thing that was glaring to me, that despite 30% of the county population being white as of 2019 census estimate, 49% of the vaccination have gone to white residents, according to the state vaccination dashboard. Black residents make up 49% of the county population, but have received only 12% of the vaccinations. Hispanics population are 23% of the county, but have received 9% of the vaccination. Requesting an official response. What is the breakdown by municipality, or even better, zip code of the residents for those who have been vaccinated by the county? That data should be tracked per vaccination site. So if you can include a black breakdown by site to see if Newark residents really are traveling to West Caldwell, Livingston, or West Orange to obtain vaccination as a plan anticipated that they would. 3, what is the county current breakdown by race, demographic, and by vaccination site? 4, what is the county's plan for increasing outreach directly to communities now that J&J vaccine is available and Moderna announced a 30-day shortage in regular refrigeration? 5, has the county medical ambulance buses or similar equipment been considered to bring refrigerated vaccines directly to communities, even contracted private ice cream trucks? 6, who is being consulted on reaching these communities in ways other than 8 a.m. website appointment dumps? What work is being done with the municipalities and community groups? 7, who is the county hiring, even part-time or hourly, to do outreach in their own communities, both for education and for actual registration for appointment, or identifying areas or neighborhoods that could benefit from a direct to curbside vaccine distribution event? Thank you. The final comment was submitted by Jeffrey Fells, Esquire of Short Hills, New Jersey. Okay, it starts as Exhibit A, post March 1st, 2021, chronology of events. Monday, March 1st, 2021, time this for me, please. Attorney Phil submits Orange, March 2nd, 21, CC meeting notes. Attorney Phil asked to speak with state and Essex County attorneys regarding post-February 22nd, 2021 long-term tax exemption developments. Essex County Commissioner Attorney asked to be excluded from the Orange email trail. DisNet Engineering Solutions versus Icon General Construction, LLC, A-3129-19, Appellate Division, March 1st, 2021, Accuso and Verona reversing default judgment. The Star Ledger, James Florio, op-ed, America's something is fundamentally wrong. States are being asked to solve too many national problems. The key to improving our government's responsiveness is our willingness to review what works and what doesn't. Whenever the issue, applying old, increasingly ineffective or inequitable policies to new problems can only make matters worse and cause additional problems. It is time to review 1787 assumptions in light of the 21st century responsibilities. Our challenge is to lay and explore present the policy options that are available along with the recommendations in order to build a consensus. This task is not for the faint-hearted. Some upholders of status quo will fight to the death, and usually for the money, think tobacco, coal, assault weapons. But the end goal, preserving our democracy, is worth the struggle. New Brunswick notice of virtual public meetings. Members of the public will be able to submit public comments, questions to the city clerk via electronic mail by Monday at 4 p.m. prior to the Wednesday of the council meeting. City of Hackensack, notice of virtual public meeting. The mayor and city council will be accepting email public comments in advance of the meeting for those individuals who are unable to participate electronically. The comments will be read into the record by the city clerk. While the Township Planning Board notice of virtual public meetings, members of the public will be able to give public comment during relevant portions of the meeting. To email a public comment, please include your name, address, limit the email to 450 words, and send it by 3 p.m. the next day prior to the meeting. New York Times, William D. Cohen, op-ed, The End of Private Equity. Judge Rakoff calls Jones Board reckless and said it could not take cover behind the business judgment rule, which usually protects directors from being held accountable for past business decisions so long as they were made in good faith. That is 3 minutes are up for the reading of this document. The rest of this document will be read into the record at a later time, Mr. President. And Mr. President, that includes comments for public session.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And as is our practice, any questions that need to be answered will be responded to in writing, correct?
Yes, Mr. President.
Thank you so much. We're now moving to Commissioner comment session. Commissioner, any questions or comments?
Mr. President, I just have a brief mention.
Yeah, Mr. Vice President Pomaris.
Thank you. Just a quick reminder that tomorrow Essex County will have its weekly food distribution event. It'll be held tomorrow, Thursday, March 11th at 9 a.m. and will take place this week at the Life Christian Church, 747 Northfield Avenue in West Orange. We have about 1,000 boxes to give away. I know a lot of us make it a point to go there on a regular basis, and we have a lot of staff and volunteers that go. And I would encourage people to share the information and try to help out a neighbor because we know that a lot of people are experiencing challenging times. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Vice President. Any other commissioners? Any comments or questions? I just have a comment and a question. Have everyone on this call downloaded the Essex County Commissioner app?
Yes, sir.
If you haven't, please do. Very easy to use, very responsive, get all kinds of alerts for meetings and those kinds of things. You can get it from Apple and you can get it from the Google Play Store. So get it, encourage your constituents to get it as well. And I want to thank Lionel and the team for putting this together. It's very important and very well done. Anything else? All right.
I just want to say that Lionel and the staff did such a great job with the app that the mayor is inquiring about getting one for the township.
Very nice. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. Commissioners, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Buenas noches.
Take care, everyone. Be
Take
safe.
care, everybody.
Good night.
Have a good weekend.